So how sustainable is the government's stance of not taking sides in an increasingly polarized world, where more and more countries in our region are doing exactly that? How does the government ensure that Singapore does not become isolated in a world of rival alignments strongly opposed to each other? So there's a tendency for some countries to dismiss certain international norms and laws often because they were set by strategic competitors or don't serve their interests. These laws are also unenforceable because we don't have a global policeman. Is the minister concerned that international law may be diminishing in reliability as a tool to protect our economic and security interests? And finally, sir, the Prime Minister recently said that we have to work harder to strengthen our network of friends and partners, to work with like-minded countries to shape international norms and rules, and to find common ground on issues of shared concerns. Can MFA make it clearer in its outreach to Singaporeans, including new citizens, which these like-minded countries are, in order to build a stronger understanding of Singapore's strategic interests, especially when external actors may be sowing doubt among our population?
Mr. Giam has asked how sustainable is this posture that we have always adopted of not taking sides but upholding principles. I would submit that in fact this is the most sensible position for Singapore, a multiracial, multi-religious, multilingual city-state and island in the heart of Southeast Asia, in which all the superpowers and indeed middle powers have a stake. And we are, because of our geography, because of our economic role, we do best when we can engage everyone, not by aiming to take sides or be a vassal state or be a proxy state, which in fact I think will be a recipe for disaster and invite the recreation of Southeast Asia as an arena for proxy wars. So I'll make the point that our current posture is the correct one, is the essential one, given our national circumstances, our geography, our economic and strategic role. And let me also say, with the benefit of some experience, that because all the superpowers and regional and middle powers know that Singapore does not aim to take sides. Singapore is always looking for relevance and being constructive. And Singapore always calculates things rationally with a long-term horizon, and is always an advocate for international law. And they also know that, therefore, sometimes we will disagree. And when we disagree, it's not because I'm taking the side of your opponent or your rival, but we disagree because that contravenes a principle that Singapore holds dear. And I would say from my experience that adopting this posture, in fact, has led to less pressure on us, because people know simply hectoring us, pressurizing us, is not likely to bear fruit. And in fact, it's more likely to make us dig in and hold the line. I would also say that in order for us to take this position of not taking sides and upholding principles, we need domestic cohesion and consensus, including in this House. Because if foreign powers believe that they can erode our resolve by dividing us, they will. There's no doubt about that. And all the more so because, in fact, all the major civilizations and religions are represented here. So I'm making the point there needs to be domestic consensus. And our domestic politics must stop at the water's edge. And that we've been able to do for 59 years and the point I'm making is that we must continue to do so. You are quite right that as far as global norms are concerned, security is concerned, there is no global policeman. If we were ever to get into a security or military conflict, no one's going to rescue us. We will be on our own. And do not ever believe for a moment in foreign affairs that friendship is a shield, that friendship makes you immune to threats. That is why we continue to have national service. That is why we continue to spend a significant proportion of our budget on defense. And that is why, in a paradoxical way, we have no enemies. We have lots of friends, because people know that our relationship is not one of dependency, is not one of sycophancy, is not one of acting on other people's behalf. We pay for what we need, we defend our interests, and we are united in doing so. And given that we're getting into a more volatile and complicated and threatening world, this ability to stand on our 2 feet, united as one people, and with sufficient reserves and the wherewithal, both fiscal and strategic, is all the more crucial. And finally, you ask what are the like-minded countries? And I would say we make common cause in concentric circles. The most important immediate construct is ASEAN. We're all in this in Southeast Asia. We all have a common economic agenda. Even at a time when the world is turning negative on trade, in ASEAN, we still believe in lowering barriers, promoting economic integration, facilitating more investments in our infrastructure, and preparing us for a digital age when we also need to be sustainable and green. So ASEAN remains that innermost concentric circles. Beyond that, it's the dialogue partners of ASEAN, and that's why, for instance, if you look at the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which again creates a zone of greater economic integration with China, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and us. And separately, we're building our ties and our economic ties with another rising middle power called India. And you would also notice that the Prime Minister and indeed all members of Cabinet have had very extensive travel itinerary. So this week, the Prime Minister will be first in Peru for APEC, then we'll go across to Brazil for the G20. And in all these fora, we try to find like-minded partners depending on the issue concerned. And finally, at the UN, we are the conveners of this forum called the Forum of Small States, which in fact is the majority of the membership of the UN. And for other small states, they find Singapore to be a dependable, reliable resource. I don't mean a resource just financially, but a resource of thought leadership, of sharing, of capability development, human capacity development, teaching a man to fish rather than just to catch fish rather than just giving a fish. So I've given a long, extended answer, but I hope you understand that the posture and the avenues that we've pursued for decades are still fundamentally sound and, in fact, all the more relevant given the current global environment. I thank you for your question.